Welcome to Yoga for Grief. This class focuses on opening the heart as well as finding a little bit more mobility and ease in the hips. For class today, you may need a bolster and 2 blocks. If you don't have a bolster, you can use a pillow. And if you don't have 2 blocks, you can always use big sturdy books or anything around that size. We're going to get started today's practice laying down on our backs. So we have an option here to use a bolster and option to use the blocks to help support the legs. So we'll be placing the blocks on either side of the legs. And then if you have a bolster or a pillow, we're just lining it up to the base of our spine and then gently coming down over it. Then we're going to bring the soles of our feet together and then start to walk them in towards the body as close as feels good. So they can be quite a ways away from the body if need be, or they can be really close. And then just wedging the blocks in or any other supports you have to help support the knees, the legs, and the hips. And then settling into whichever shape we've chosen. Start to connect with your breathing. Just checking in to see where it is in your body. Are your breaths coming in shallow or deep, fast or slow? Just observing without judgment. Start to scan the body, checking in for any areas of soreness or tightness. And perhaps you are nursing an injury. If that is the case, then please honor your body and meet yourself where you're at throughout the practice. If at any point you need to pause the yoga video, feel free to. As we are working in the heart and hips today, this can bring up a lot of emotion. Grief can manifest in many ways. And one of them is this feeling of being blocked through the body, of closing down, closing in, getting tight. And it can be really difficult to counteract that. So meet yourself with compassion, with grace, and only do what you can today. All together, we'll exhale everything we're holding on to. Take a deep inhalation through the nose, filling all the way up to the collarbones. When you get to the top, holding it, and then gently exhaling through the mouth. Exhale the low belly first, all the way up to the collarbones. We'll do that 2 more times, inhaling deeply. Feel your rib cage expand in every direction. Holding at the top. And then gently release through the mouth. We'll do 1 more deep breath in. And the deepest you've done today. So at the top, perhaps take an extra sip of air in. And release. And coming back to a natural breath. Just taking a moment to examine how this may feel a little different from before those deep breaths. And if you have blocks or other supports supporting your legs, feel free to start to take them out now. Maybe you can go a little deeper, even just taking them out a little bit more. See if you can open the hips up a little bit wider. And keep breathing. Imagine that you are sending air to those tight spaces in your hips. In any space that feels tight. And you can stay right here with your legs, or if you'd like, you can try removing the blocks completely, only if your hips are open enough for that. And see how deep you can go. Maybe placing your hands just on the inside of your legs for a little bit more weight, a little more grounding. Five more deep breaths here. And then wherever you are, we're going to start to guide our knees back up, holding onto the outside of our legs. Just gently bringing them up. If you have any props still underneath, please put them to the side. And we're going to start to walk our feet out towards the edges of our mat and allow your knees to come to meet in the middle. You could take your feet even a little wider, maybe just off your mat. After intense external rotation, it's always good to do a little internal rotation rebound. And slowly we'll start to bring our feet back to center, walking them in. Knees are parallel to each other. And then we're going to start to slowly come up onto our forearms, gently lifting the head first. And coming all the way up. If you had a bolster or a pillow underneath you, feel free to move that off your mat. And then come back all the way down to your back. And we'll start to walk our feet in towards our body as close as we can get them. Locate your right leg, and we're going to lift that, hooking the right ankle over the left thigh. Keep a nice flex through that right foot, and then place your right hand at the base of your right leg. Give it a gentle push away. So you can stay right here, or option to start to bring this figure four shape in, releasing that push, and then start to bring the whole shape in. You can hold on to it just from the outside, get like a big hug, or if you'd like, you can take your right hand and thread it through that little hole, interlacing over your left shin. You want to still keep a flex through your right foot, but as you draw the shape in, you can relax your left foot, even maybe roll out the ankle a little, wiggle the toes. And breathing here, or in whichever shape you're in. Eventually finding stillness. Focusing on the sensations in the hip. And perhaps in your glute or your IT band, could be feeling this too on the right side. And if you took the interlace with your right hand, we're going to gently release. But keep the legs in towards your body. So if you were still with your foot on the ground, we're going to pick that up a little bit. And we're going to start to guide our right foot all the way over to the left side, grounding it down, and then placing your left hand on your right leg and just gently guiding the knee up towards the ceiling. And as you do this, see if you can maybe put your right hand on your right hip and just weight it down a little bit. Intention to get that hip down to the ground, though it'll probably never get there. Breathing here. When all else fails, we can always come back to the breath. And then slowly release. Bring everything back to center. Unhook your foot from your thigh. And then bring your feet out wide on the mat to the edges. And then we'll windshield wiper the legs side to side, gently dropping the knees one way and then the other. Just circling through this a few times. Feel free to take this as slowly as you'd like. And then we'll start to bring our knees back up to center, walking the feet in. And then start to bring the knees in towards your chest, holding onto your shins. Start to guide your knees out towards your armpits. And you can stay right here if this is enough, or if you'd like, you can start to extend your feet up and take happy baby, holding on to either just your shins or maybe the outside edges of your feet or hooking your toes. And in our happy baby, see if you can relax your low back down. We're intending our knees towards the ground. So if your back is really up, maybe hold on somewhere a little lower down the legs or higher up the legs, depending on your perspective. And breathing here. If you'd like to add a little bit of movement side to side, feel free to add that rock. Slowly finding stillness again. And then releasing your grip of your legs, start to draw your knees in, planting your feet down on the mat, locating your left leg, left foot. We're going to pick that up and hook it over the right thigh. Keep a flex in your left foot and place your left hand down by the base of your leg. Give it a gentle push away. Take a few deep breaths right here. And then option to stay right here if this is enough for your hips. Or if you'd like, you can release the push and then start to bring this figure four shape in, either just hugging on the outside or maybe taking your left hand, threading it through the hole and taking the interlace on your right thigh. If you're taking the interlace with your hands, try to do the opposite interlace, so the one that feels kind of funny. Keep a flex through your left foot, but you can relax your right. And you can draw little circles, rolling out your ankle, wiggling your toes if that feels good. And we're intending our left knee up towards the ceiling here. Taking deep, even breaths through the nose. If you took that interlace, release it, unthreading your left arm. And if your foot's still on the ground, start to lift it up a little bit and start to guide your left foot over to the right side, planting your left foot down fully, using your right hand to help guide your left knee up towards the ceiling, and then placing your left hand on your left hip just as a grounding weight, so that you have those opposing forces working here to help open up the hip. Deep breaths. And then gently release, guiding this figure four shape back up to center. Unhook your left leg from your right. And then start to draw both knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a big hug. Wrapping your arms all the way around, and then bringing your head in as far as you can. Slowly release back down. And then we'll find ourselves in an easy seated position. You can do this by rolling through fetal, or if you'd like, you can grab onto the back of your hamstrings and just do a little rock up. And then finding a nice easy seated position, we'll start to sync our breath to our movement. On your next inhalation, bring the arms up overhead, palms touching. Exhale through heart center. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale the arms up. Exhale through heart center. Inhaling the arms up. Exhale through heart center. We're going to do that 1 more time, inhaling the arms up. And this time locating your right hand and then bringing it down to the ground, extending your left arm over. You can have a little gentle bend in your right elbow. And gaze can be down the ground or up towards your hand. We're just taking some deep mindful breaths into the left side body. Inhale the arm back up to center. And then we're going to start to bring it over towards our right knee. Start to draw your right hand as far back behind you as you can, maybe on your fingertips for a bit more height. Coming into a twist, we're going to intend our gaze behind us as much as possible, keeping long through the spine. Imagine there's a little thread pulling you up through the top of your head. And taking a full breath in. On the exhalation, we're going to start to draw our right hand over the left, placing it on the other knee. And if this is too far away, you can place them in a little closer. We're going to exhale, curling in, finding space through our back body. Breathing here, spreading the shoulder blades. Then slowly coming back to center, locating your left hand. We're going to unthread it. We're going to place it as far back behind us as we can. Again, finding that tall spine. Gaze is intended behind us as much as possible. And just taking some deep, mindful breaths in this twist. Taking a full breath in here. On your exhalation, we're going to cross the left arm over the right, bringing it to the other leg or closer in if need be. And then exhale, curling in, really protracting through the shoulder blades, finding space through the back side of your heart. Tucking the chin in. Next inhalation brings you back to center. We're going to locate our left arm, place it beside us, and then inhale the right arm up and over. You can bend it into the left elbow to find more space. And try to ground your right hip down as you pull through that top arm. And we're just taking some deep mindful breaths into the right side body. Gazing up towards the hand or maybe down towards the ground. Feel free to keep your eyes closed if that feels better. So in this side body bend, we really want to make sure we're not closing in. We want to really keep the chest lifted. And then slowly start to inhale all the way up. Place your hand down. And then with the fingers facing forward, we're going to uncross our legs, placing them out in front of us. And then windshield wiper them side to side. And bringing back some circulation. And start to bring your knees back up to center. We're going to transition now onto our stomachs. So if you are pregnant, you can do some of these moves in a tabletop position. And if you are not pregnant, feel free to make yourself come all the way down to the ground, creating a little cushion by stacking one hand over the other for your chin, and then placing your chin down gently. Start to slide your right leg out towards the side. We're kind of aiming it towards our right elbow. So getting it up as high as you can and breathing here. And then keeping the leg where it is, we're going to just lift it up gently on the inhale. And then exhale, releases it down. We're going to cycle through that 10 times. So inhaling up, exhaling down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Start to slide the knee back in. And we're going to keep that foot lifted and flex like it's stamping the ceiling. And we're going to just gently lift the entire leg, really planting our left toes down for support, really grounding through that left side. We're going to inhale up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Gently release, extending the entire leg. And we'll do the other side right away, sliding the left knee up as far up as you can to reach that left elbow. And then gently pulsing through the first set, inhaling to lift the foot, exhale down. 2, 3. If my count is too fast, by all means, pause, take it slower. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Start to slide your leg back in. We're going to keep that foot up towards the ceiling. And then we're going to start to pulse it up, really grounding through our right side, planting, spreading those right toes for support. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Excellent. Releasing the leg fully. And then start to slide both hands down long by your body. Our big toes are touching, and we're going to start to peel our chest up off the ground. Draw your shoulders back as you do this. Keep those toes down. And we're just using the upper part of our posterior chain to keep us up. And then slowly exhale all the way down. And we'll do that again. This time, option to lift the feet, lift the legs. And if you do this, please try to keep your feet together as much as possible. Really grounding down through the fingernails. Breathing here. And then slowly exhaling all the way down. Start to slide your hands underneath your shoulders. Then we're going to peel ourselves off our mat. We're going to bring our big toes to touch behind us. Take a wider stance with the knees, maybe bringing them all the way out to the edges of our mat. And then start to come down for a wide-legged child's pose. So settling into this shape. If it doesn't feel good to bring your head all the way down, feel free to grab a block or a prop of any sort that can help support your head. And you can just place it just at the bridge of your nose and allow yourself to relax up here instead. And breathing here. And trying to find more weight through the hips, through the pelvis. And then slowly, wherever you are in this shape, we're just going to come up, remove any blocks or props you have going on, and then come to meet in a neutral tabletop position. And from here, we'll locate our right leg, start to extend it out, tucking the toes under, and give it a little pulse back and forth. Or you can hold in stillness if you find a sweet spot. And then releasing that stretch. From here, we're going to find ourselves in a low lunge. So we can start to guide that foot up towards the front, maybe starting on the outside of the hand, and then walking it in, framing that foot with both hands, and then coming up for a low lunge. Take an interlace with your hands behind your head. Start to draw the elbows in, and then we're going to add a little bit of a posterior tilt to our hips. So we're kind of wrapping them under, and then taking a full breath in here. On the exhalation, start to curl in, tucking the chin in towards the chest. Holding here, breathing. And then inhale, come back to center. Take a deep breath in and out here. And then inhale again. Exhale, curling in. Inhale to come back up. And then release. You can add a little bit more of a hip flexor stretch here by kind of coming into the lunge. And then slowly coming out of it. And then we're going to frame that foot again. And then again, to get it back to tabletop, you could just slide it through. If you don't have space for that, you can always place it on the outside and then bring it back. And now we'll repeat that sequence on the other side, placing our left hand towards the back of our head, lifting the elbow up. Exhale here. And then on your inhalation, we're opening up to the left just a little bit. And then exhale back to center. Inhale to open. Exhale to come back. Inhaling to open. Exhale to come back. Inhale to open, really drawing the elbow up. Exhale to come back. Inhale to open. Exhale to come back. One more time. Inhaling to open. Exhale, come back. Slowly place that hand down on the ground. Start to extend your left leg back, tucking your toes and just pulsing. Or you can find a sweet spot and hold, finding a release through the back line of your leg, especially through the calf and the heel. And then slowly releasing that, we're gonna make our way into a low lunge on the left side. So again, you can either slide it right through both hands, or you can step on the outside and then guide it in. We're coming up, meeting in that low lunge. Taking interlace behind our head, drawing the elbows forward. Start to tuck the pelvis in. Take a full breath in, and then on the exhalation, curling in as much as possible, bringing the chin in towards the chest. Breathing here. Inhale to come up. Take a full breath in and out. And take another inhalation. Exhale, curling in again, bringing the chin in as close as you can. And then inhale, come back up to center. Release the interlace, placing your hands on your leg for support. And then you can start to dip into this lunge, stretching the hip flexor on the right side. Then slowly coming out of this. And again, we'll find ourselves in a neutral tabletop position, however suits you best to get there. And then tucking all our toes under from here, we're going to start to lift our hips up and back into downward facing dog. So feel free to keep a nice generous bend in your knees, keep your heels off the ground if you're tight. You can make any little movements here that feel good, maybe a sway side to side. You want to imagine that you're trying to make a triangle with the ground, not a tabletop position, right? So that means that you might really need to keep a nice generous bend in those knees. We're sending our hips up and back. And then take a slightly wider stance with your feet at the back of your space. We're going to start to walk our hands towards our feet. When you get there, add a nice generous bend to both knees. Make a little shelf for your chest and ragdoll over. Option to hold on to opposite elbows. You can let your head be heavy here. And breathing deeply and evenly. You can add a little rocking sway side to side if that feels good. Or maybe a little wave up and down. Or you can just hold in stillness. And then slowly, if you have the interlace or if you're holding onto opposite elbows, release. Slowly, vertebra by vertebra, rolling up the spine. Take your time. And coming all the way up, inhaling the arms up and overhead. And then exhale, hands down by your side. From here, we're going to do 3 rounds of breath of joy. I'm going to show you how it's done first, and then feel free to join in with me. If it doesn't feel good, if you have any vertigo issues or vestibular issues, feel free to skip this and just breathe it evenly, standing tall. So how it looks is we're going to take a nice wide stance with our feet all the way to the ends of our mats. Maybe our toes are ducked out a little bit. Make sure that you can have a nice generous bend to your knees here. We're going to inhale 3 times before we exhale, release through the mouth, and we release the arms down between the legs. So this is what it looks like. right, so now you can try it with me. We're gonna inhale 3 little breaths and then exhale all out through the mouth. Ready? And and then slowly coming all the way back up. Good job. We're gonna walk our feet in a little bit more. Then we're gonna inhale up, finding length, maybe take a little back bend here. And then exhale, start to forward fold, hinging at the hips, generous bend in the knees. Inhale, halfway lift, hands to shins, flat back. And then exhale down, place your hands down on the ground. We're gonna crawl out a little bit and we're gonna come to meet in a kneeling position. So making sure that our knees are just underneath our hips and our feet can be a little bit wider out for support. We're gonna be doing a heart opener called Ustrasana, Camel pose. And this is more about finding the integrity of the pose than about how deep you can get into the pose. So we'll start by holding on to the hips. We're gonna start to inhale, and as we inhale, we're lifting the chest up, up, up. The pelvis is coming forward as we do this, and you can have your glutes gently engaged for a bit of support. You can also start to push your toes down into the ground for a little bit more support here too. And as we come up into this back bend, you can allow the head to come back if that feels good for your neck. So right here, this is the integrity of the pose. So if this is enough for you, you feel the benefits, stay right here. If you are a little bit more flexible, then perhaps you can start to reach down for your heels. So as you do that, you're still lifting through the chest and you're still drawing your hips forward. Wherever you are, you're breathing deeply. And then on your next exhalation, slowly come all the way back up. Walk the knees in and then come down for a seat. We'll just take a rebound pose here. And then placing the hands down in front of us. Coming back into that tabletop position momentarily, we're going to guide our left leg up towards our hands. So again, you can start by the outside and then walk it in. And then we're going to start to pivot our back leg out so that it's parallel to the front of our mat. Start to place your left hand on the inside of your left foot. And then inhale, opening up to the side. And as we're doing this, we're really guiding that left knee out, not closing it in. And then inhale, come all the way up. And then exhale, the other hand back to the back of your mat. And then we're going to start to extend that left leg out long. And then option here, see if you can pick it up. Start to bend into the knee, and then see if you can hook your hand to your foot. If you have it, start to press the foot into the hand, opening up. And then slowly release with control, placing the foot back down. We're going to come all the way up, start to pivot towards the front, framing that front foot for a moment, and then making our way back to a neutral tabletop position. We'll do the other side right away, so bringing that right foot up towards the front. Making sure that our right hand is on the inside of our right foot, and then start to pivot that back leg out to the side so that it's parallel with the mat. Next inhalation is going to draw your left arm up towards the ceiling. Breathing here. Only going as deeply into this as feels good. And again, we don't want that right knee to close off and come in, so we really want it to stay neutral, stay pointing forward. And then looking down at the ground, inhale to come up. And then we're going to start to place that hand back behind us. Start to extend that back leg out long. And then now option to lift it up. Start to bend into the knee and then see if you can reach back to grab the foot. If you have the foot, start to push it into the hand, opening up. Breathing here. And then slowly release with control, placing it back down, bringing the hand back up to the ceiling, using your core strength. Next inhalation brings you back up. And then all the way back to the front, bending into that front leg, and then stepping it back, coming into a neutral tabletop position. And then slowly, we're going to start to extend our legs back behind us, and then lower yourself all the way to your stomachs. And then we're going to start to bend into both legs. So if you couldn't catch your foot in the last pose, that's okay. If you have a strap at home or anything you can use as a strap, like a towel, feel free to go grab that, and you can use that now to help you with this one. We're going into bow pose. So we're going to start to bend into our legs, and then see if you can reach back and hook onto your ankles or your feet. And then looking down at the mat, rolling the shoulders back. Start to push your ankles or your feet into your hands to lift up for bow. And we're going to try not to splay our legs out too much. So really draw those knees in together, toes together as much as possible. Breathing here. And then slowly exhale all the way down. Release the legs, place the hands out on the mat. We're going to inhale through for upward dog or cobra with the legs grounded. And then exhale back, tuck the toes under, lift the hips. Downward facing dog. Feel free to walk it out. And then slowly come back down to your knees. We're going to just take a seat and then find ourselves down on our backs. So we're going to do some supine twist to end the practice. And you can take these several different ways. If you have very tight hips, then I do recommend using blocks to help. So you can place a block in between to help with space, as well as underneath, both or just one or the other. So it's totally up to you. If you're a little bit more flexible, then you can also do this with your legs crossed. So to start the basic one, we're going to start to draw our knees in towards our chest. And then if you are tighter, from here I recommend the block. And then start to guide your knees over towards the right side. So you can have that block underneath or in between for a bit more support. And if this doesn't feel like enough of a twist for you, Then you can also locate your left leg, hook it over your right, draw the legs in, and then slowly guide them to the side. And as you do this, maybe shifting your hips a little bit towards the left. So whichever variation works best for you today, feel free to meet yourself there. And then maybe you're extending your left arm out long, and then maybe bringing the gaze over towards the left as well. You want to try to walk your right shoulder out so that your left shoulder can come down lower towards the ground. And breathing here. And just checking in to see where you're holding on to tension that you don't need to be. See if you can soften, maybe in your face, maybe in your legs, your hands, your feet. What can you release? One more deep breath here. And slowly coming back to center, first with the head, followed by the legs. Uncross them. Shift your hips back to center. And then we'll set up for the other side. So whichever variation works best for you. We'll go into that either with the legs just side by side or with your right leg crossed over your left. Whichever variation you have, we're going to bring the knees in first before we shift them all the way over to the left. And as you do, feel free to adjust your hips, maybe setting them a little bit more towards the right. You can place a hand on the legs for some weight, and then option to extend your right arm out long, followed by the gaze, if that feels good for your cervical spine. Deep, mindful breaths through the nose. Remember to walk that left shoulder out so that your right might meet the ground. One more deep breath. And bring your head up first to center, followed by the legs. Uncross the legs if you had them crossed, and then come back to center with your hips. We're going to do one more hip opener before we go into our final resting pose. So for this one, we're going to lift both legs up, keep a nice little bend in both legs. Locate your left leg, and we're going to hook it over the right. Start to bend generously into both legs, and then see if you can maybe reach up, maybe grabbing onto the legs, or maybe the edges of the feet. You want to keep a flex through the feet, and then start to pull the shape in towards the body. Whew. Breathing here. One of my teachers calls this move grabbing the bull by the horns. It's quite intense, so she's not wrong. One more breath. Slowly release. Unhook, and then we'll do the other side right away, hooking the right leg over the left, bending generously into both legs, both knees, and then hooking onto either the leg itself or maybe the feet if you can reach them. Keeping a flex through those feet, start to pull the feet in towards the body. Just enough so that you feel sensation without pain. Deep breath into that sensation. Slowly release. Unhook the legs and then plant them down. And then start to extend your legs out long, coming into final resting pose. So if Savasana on your back like this doesn't feel good, you can always take it in a different way. You do it with your knees bent. You can do it on your side in fetal position. So just finding whatever shape suits you best. And if you are laying down, you can take up as much space as you'd like. Even starfishing off your mat if you'd like to. And start to relax your face. Release your control of the breath. Relax your jaw, your tongue and your palate. Soften through the neck and make sure your shoulders are away from the ears. Your core is heavy and your arms and legs are surrendered to gravity. Feel free to keep resting in Savasana for as long as you'd like. And take a moment to honor yourself for showing up today with your grief and for moving and breathing regardless of your grief. I wish you all healing and recovery. Namaste.